Mike, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. It's like it's 6 o'clock. All righty then. 6 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Monday, January 10th, 2022. Start with the land acknowledgement by Dr. Sweeting.
Good evening. We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors, who believe that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sweeting. And Pledge of Allegiance. We could all rise and say the pledge. All right. Attendance. I see all board members are here. Would you like to do a roll call?
Yes. Director Ray,
I'm here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kingman,
Here.
Director Levesque,
Here.
Director Knapp,
Here.
Student Advisor Madeline Andrich, Student Advisor Kyle Schroeder,
Here.
Superintendent Sweeting.
Here.
Excellent. All right. And next, approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any questions about the agenda for tonight's meeting? All right. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Move on to the regular Zoom meeting minutes. Any questions about the Zoom meeting minutes from December 13th, 2021? Okay, read and reviewed the minutes. We'll call those minutes approved and move on to board organization. Election of board president. I will open the nominations for board president for 2022.
I nominate Mary Levesque.
Mary Levesque has been nominated. Are there any additional nominations for board presidents? I would like to nominate myself as for board president for 2022 as past vice president. And for the third time, any additional nominations for board president for 2022? Okay, hearing none, we will close nominations for board president and we'll do a roll call vote. And we'll start with Director Levesque. I believe we'll do a roll call for Director Levesque, and clerk can start that.
Yes. Sorry, we're doing this a little backwards. Do I have a a motion, Sherry Kelly motioned to nominate Director Levesque. Do I have a second?
I don't believe we need a second. I think we can we not just move on with nominations?
I need to have a roll call vote, and so I need someone to second, and then we need to call the roll.
Okay. So let's step backwards. Director Kelly nominated Director Levesque for president. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Director Levesque has been seconded. Are there any other nominations for board president? Third and final time. Are there any nominations for board president? I would like to nominate myself for board president. Would there be a second for nomination for Director Ray for board president?
I will second the nomination for Director Ray.
There's been a second. There are two people who are in the running for board president. We've had a third call, and so we'll move on to a roll call vote for president. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to, I'm sorry, Mike, it's possible that we might have done that not quite in the right order, but I think we're in the right place right now. So,
No problem. I could have read the directions wrong.
Right, the choices are yay or nay or abstaining for the vote, so it doesn't tell me who you're voting for. So we needed to vote for each person individually, according to what I'm seeing here in board docs. So we have the first nomination was for Director Levesque as president. Sherry Kelly nominated her, Erica Knapp seconded. Then I would
Right.
vote on that. Director Ray, how do you vote on that?
I will vote nay.
Sherry Kelly,
Yay.
Director Kingman,
You're muted.
This is for Director Levesque.
yes.
Well, I hate to vote against anybody, but gee whiz. Nay.
Director Levesque,
Yay. Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
I can go through the next motion and add the motion for Director Ray to nominate.
no, I think that we're at a majority there for
That's
the.
what I'm sorry, that's what I thought, but I thought maybe I needed to go through that process.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. I was just reading it as you go through there. So yes, I would agree. So Director Levesque has been nominated as president for 2022. Congratulations, Director Levesque. You will now take over the meeting. It's all yours.
Thank you, Director Ray, and thank you, rest of the board. Okay, our next order of business is our election of board vice president. And so we're going to open the nominations for vice president. So we'd love to hear somebody make a nomination.
Can nominate Director Kingman for vice president.
Dr. Sweeting, is there a requirement of time served?
Yeah, usually, Mike, it's 1 year in an office, so it's you and Sherry and Mary that would be eligible. It's when the majority, and you're right, Sherry might be considered new, but she's not really new because she's been with us. So the majority, those three of you have been on the board for more than a year, or at least longer. So, yeah. And I'm
Okay.
sure that both Erica and Mike would be willing, but they also are in this learning mode too for this, as they just came on board.
Mhm.
Is there any other nominations for vice president?
I nominate Michael Ray for vice president.
Thank you. We've had a nomination for Director Ray to serve as vice president. Do we have any additional nominations for the office of VP?
I hate to confuse the issue. I'm going to decline that nomination.
Okay, that is in your rights to do that. We are going to need another nominee for the office of VP. Is there anyone willing to serve as vice president? You can self-nominate, or you can nominate someone who has not yet been nominated.
I would like to nominate Sherry Kelly.
Do you accept that nomination, Director Kelly?
I was anticipating being more active as a legislative rep. So I would, at this point, like to decline that nomination, and that would be more of where my interest lies.
Sherry, I will say that it's also possible to do both of those roles it's not impossible, but
Dr. Sweeting, I have a clarification I wanted to double check. If Director Kelly and Director Ray, who have been serving on the board long enough to be elected as vice president, if they both decline, then does that leave us the opportunity to have Director Kingman and Director Knapp be suitable nominees?
well, at that, I mean, doing this right off just the top of my head, my thinking is if both decline, then we have no other choice, and so then the only two that are eligible then, or at least here that can serve, are Erica and Mike Kingman. So unless anybody has any other insight in that for us. So that would only make sense. We need to have a vice president or a vice chair, and we need to have a legislative rep. I mean, it's important for our board team. So we need to be whole.
I think my question in the role of vice president is, I'm just not sure of the level of obligation. I don't know. I know Michael stepped in if Judy was out, which was very rare in my observations. I'm just not fully aware of what those responsibilities look like. And if I sign on for something, I want to make sure I can do it.
Well, you described it the way what it is. It's you would if the president was unable to be in that role at all, like outside, taking care of things that would be there's certain meetings that the president attends, but mostly it's taking over at a board meeting.
Yep.
I think Mike Ray might be able to share more about that because he's been the vice chair. So
That would be it. As I can't recall anything else that I've done.
thanks, Mike.
Can't recall doing more than, did I even do a whole meeting? I think it was just partial.
Thanst, Mike.
I mean,
Director Kelly, does that change your opinion?
I think it does. I just would, I just want to make sure that's something I can fulfill. And as I said, observing Michael, Director Ray, that was something that he stepped in a few times, I think. So I would be comfortable fulfilling that role should you not be available. So I guess if I was nominated for vice president, it's something I guess I could do.
Okay, so then we have a nomination for vice president. Thank you, Director Kelly, and thank you for the nomination. Do we have any additional nominations for the office of VP? This is the third time and final time I'm going to ask. Hearing no additional nominees, we are going to close nominations for vice president and call for a roll call vote.
Do we have a second on that nomination?
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to elect Director Kelly to the office of vice president. Madam Clerk, will you please call for a roll call vote?
Yes. Director Ray,
Abstain.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
Director Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp. I'm sorry, did you say aye?
Yes, aye. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have a Vice President, Director Kelly. Thank you for your service and welcome aboard. Our next item of business is our legislative representative. We're going to open the nominations for our legislative representative. Anybody can make a nomination.
I would like to nominate Sherry Kelly.
We have Sherry Kelly as nominated for legislative rep. Sherry, do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Thank you. Should we get a second for that?
Yes.
Okay. May I please get a second for that nomination?
Second.
Thank you, Director Kingman. Is there any other nominations for legislative representative? I'm going to ask a third and final time. Are there any additional nominations for legislative representative? Hearing no other nominations, we're going to close nominations and call for a roll call vote.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. I don't know if that came through. Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our board organization is complete. Thank you for all of your participation and your help. We'll now move on to our next item on the agenda, and that is our comments from the audience. Dr. Sweeting, can you also review the purpose and the point and the goal of having our comments from the audience? Again, like you did last month for anyone who didn't understand or hear.
Okay, yes, I will. So the board meeting is a board business meeting, but because they value feedback and they want to hear from the public, they have incorporated public comment time during the board meeting. It's not possible that, even though they would love to discuss those topics that are brought up during public comment during the board meeting, because we are required by the Open Public Meetings Act to publish what the topics are that are going to be discussed in the meeting, so that people that may have an interest in that topic can also be there to give their thoughts. So I just know that I've heard some frustration from individuals that it's hard when they come to make public comment and then there's no conversation that takes place with the board, but we can't do that because of that law. However, your comments are heard, they are considered, they are valued. And I do follow up. I'll either email or call, and some board members may do that as well, but I do that. And your voice is heard, and it does help us to, as the board grapples with those decisions. So it's valued very much. And I was sharing with another individual, I didn't say this the last time, but there are other ways that you can have a voice as well, not just during public comment, but we have some committees that get together more often, and they discuss some of these things that you are bringing to the table, and we would value your voice there. We have what's called the Advisory Council for Education, which has parents. There's representatives from every school and every director district, and their students and staff, and that's a great committee. So if you have an interest in that, please let me know. There's also a facility advisory committee where we need community members and parents to be a part of. Let me know on that. There's a curriculum review and adoption committee that needs to have parents on it as well. And we have another opportunity called Community Voices, where we ask community members and parents what's working, what's not, and what suggestions do you have. So we really want to have that opportunity to have that conversation. So there are ways. Just email me if you want to get involved, and we'll find an avenue for you. There's also one other one I'll mention, the district community equity team that was started last year. We have parents and students and staff on that as well. So those are opportunities. Hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you for your explanation. We'll now move into the comments portion of our meeting, and I'm going to read a script that has been prepared ahead of time. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public at our meetings, and has therefore set aside a time at regular meetings to hear audience comments. You may speak about an agenda item or non-agenda topic. This is the only time during the meeting where public comment will be taken. Please listen carefully to these instructions. If you wish to speak to the board during this comment time, please click the raise hand button on the bottom bar in the Zoom window now and leave it raised until called. If you are joined by telephone, press *9 to raise your hand. We will first call on those who pre-registered to speak. After that, we will call on any other raised hands. Each speaker will be given one opportunity to speak. When your name is called, you'll be temporarily unmuted by the clerk. Please clearly state your name, spelling the last name, and email address, unless you have already provided your contact information to the clerk. And keep your comments as brief as possible, 3 minutes or less. The president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement if it is uncivil, disrupts the orderly and fair progress of discussion, reaches the level of obscenity, or exceeds the allotted time. The board does not respond to questions during the business meeting. The board's silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. If you're requesting a response or just prefer to provide comments to the board in writing, please do so through the district website at asd.wednet.edu. Choose administration, then school board, then contact the board. Madam Clerk, do we have some pre-registered speakers tonight?
Yes, we do. Melissa Eller, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. We have your information on file. Go ahead and start your time.
Okay, and I did send an email, so you do have my contact information. And I will just follow my email that I sent. I do want to thank you for responding. I spoke at the last meeting and I attended the last meeting on Zoom. Thank you for responding. A couple of you did respond to my concerns and my comments. And I was able to hear your conversation regarding the meeting in person. I'm speaking towards moving the school board meeting to an in-person meeting. I was impressed with the importance that you placed on giving everyone an opportunity to express their opinions and concerns. And I recognize that these are difficult conversations and difficult decisions that would have seemed very strange that they would be difficult just 2 years ago. So the conversation that I heard later in your meeting last time seemed to be swaying towards meeting in person. When Superintendent Sweeting, I believe, although upon further reflection, it may have been Mary Levesque. I'm sorry, I'm new to your group. So, but someone spoke towards the end and her comments were very persuasive and strong. And in my opinion, they swayed the other members present in a way that was surprising and to me and concerning. The predominant concern seemed to be not about the virus, but about meeting in person with the public, with parents and with the public, the community. She was concerned because she has noted that people seem angry and she fears for her safety. And I want to say that, yes, there are many people who are angry and upset about things that are happening and the way that our education has been affected in the last couple of years. But please don't let that keep you from meeting in person. I think it's very important that you meet with the parents and with the public, with the community, so that you can understand why they're upset. Of course, I think there are many people who are angry. That doesn't mean that we're not civil. That doesn't mean that we're not appropriate. But these are our children. This is our community. So we want to be heard, and in person is more effective in doing that. So I would just concern, I see that my time is up. So I just want to say, meeting in person with parents provides an opportunity to better build trust and community. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for taking the time to listen and attend tonight. We appreciate your comments. Madam Clerk, we're ready for our next speaker, please.
Yes, our next speaker is Rob Marchand. Rob, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Rob, we have your information on file and your time is going to start.
Perfect. Once again, like I said last month, I was able to attend this Zoom meeting last month, and I appreciate you guys' time and your dedication to being part of the school board. I know it takes personal time, and we all appreciate that. What I wanted to speak to was some of the comments that were made at last meeting after we were able to present our comments. And I was very taken back with a couple of the comments where board members had personal opinions because of personal family situations, which seemed to persuade them to move us in a direction of continuing to stay online meetings. Which is confusing to me because we live in a state now where we can attend professional football games, soccer games. We can all go to the grocery store, which I'm sure you all go to the grocery store. We send our children to school. We follow the protocol. We wear our masks. Folks are vaccinated. So it's okay for everyone else, it seems, to do in-person meetings except for this board. This is a decent medium to conduct these meetings, but I have no idea how many of my constituents are even on this meeting. I see 6 people right now. I see the board. I don't see anybody else here with me. I have no idea if there is 5 people supporting this effort or if there's 100 people. We don't know until the entire meeting's done. So I would just really hope you guys would take into consideration that we are moving forward. We need to move forward. We need to support our children. We need to make community decisions as communities and see people face to face. There is a human element that I feel like we're missing here. Really don't have a whole lot more to say. I really feel like moving this towards an in-person or a hybrid, like we talked about last month, would easily be achievable. Although when you try to mix the two, things do get lost. So I appreciate you guys' time. Thanks for letting me speak, and I will, that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. We appreciate hearing from you. Madam Clerk, who's our next?
If you give me a moment of personal privilege there, I'd just like to let everybody know there are, 111 participants in the meeting tonight. I believe that would include the board as well.
Thank you, Director Ray. Our next speaker, please.
Nicole Henderson. Crystal, are you there?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Crystal. We have your information.
Hi, thank you. Before you start the clock, I have 8 people. Can we pause the clock, please? I have 8 people messaging me saying that they're trying to get into the meeting. Can we maybe check the waiting room and allow those people in?
Crystal, there isn't a waiting room. All audience members are automatically joined as soon as they come into the meeting.
Okay. well, you have a lot of people messaging me saying that they're trying to get into the meeting, so they can view this at a later time, correct?
Yes, it is live on YouTube. It's streaming and it is recorded.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for having me back. I'm going to get right to it. 3 minutes goes fast. With all the COVID coming back and rising cases, I just kind of wanted to talk about remote versus in-person learning and meeting. Everybody knows that being in person is what is best for the overwhelming majority of our kids. This is one of the few things that people are not divided on. OSPI has given school boards the power to choose to stay open or to close down. For the sake of our kids' physical, mental, social, emotional, neurological, and academic health, I plead with you, please keep our schools open. If parents want to put their kids in remote learning, they can do that. If parents want their kids to go to school in person, please let them. Last year, we proved we are capable of offering different schooling models. Please allow parents the right to choose what is best for their kids. Similarly, if community members want to continue to attend school board meetings via Zoom, they can. And those who want to attend in person can do so as well. For months now, folks, we've been talking about adding in-person school board meetings. And again, not as a replacement, Zoom is great. It is for what it can do. But in addition to that, to offer that in-person option. And I have to ask, why are we still talking about this? And why haven't we done it already? The last meeting, there were a lot of tech issues. One of the school board members continued to glitch nonstop. I heard her like every other word. And then one of our speakers lost about a minute of his time. When he was, came back and he said, hey, can I have my minute back? One of our school board members denied him the right to that minute, essentially silencing him. And I was happy when I saw that another school board member allowed him to speak. Failing to add an in-person option, I find it to be exclusive and inequitable. As we learned with the lockdown, when schools scurried to provide computers and hotspots to kids, there is a technological divide when it comes to both resources and skills needed to access these meetings. It's well documented that the people who don't have access to the resources and the skills are often our most marginalized community members. By not offering an in-person option, we restrict access to being informed and participating in school board meetings and educational opportunities. In doing so, we further the divide. Likewise, there's a generational technological gap, and not providing in-person options excludes our elders. At the last school board meetings, school board members asked if they could continue to Zoom, and Dr. Sweeting told them, yeah. So it's a win-win-win for everybody. When we asked our student board members if they would like to come back, they enthusiastically both said yes. Why are we not letting them? This is a win-win-win situation for everybody. I see my time is up. I thank you again for hearing me. I hope you all are well. Cheers.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. Madam Clerk, we're ready for our next speaker, please.
Joy Johnson, are you there, Joy?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Joy, we can hear you. We have your information on file. Go ahead and start your time.
Thank you. I just want to say hello to our new board members. My name is Joy Johnson. I don't have anything formally prepared. I'm kind of winging it based on my responses to hearing what I heard last week. And also knowing what's going on with the COVID counts in our community. For our new board members, you may not know, my daughter is 10 years old and I had to pull her out of the district this year because I am immunocompromised. I don't make antibodies. I am double, soon to be triple vaxxed, but I didn't respond. I have to take infusions every week of donor antibodies derived from donor plasma. The school district didn't provide daily online instruction as an online school option, which we did last year. And that worked out really well for us, but that was taken back this year. So I had to pull her out to do WAVA instead. It's not going well. I got to be honest with you. It's really not going well. My daughter's very independent and very intelligent, but being removed from her community, not having her teachers that she's known since kindergarten, not having her friends she's known since kindergarten, it's been hard. And we've dealt with a lot of loss, not just loss of her competitive dance, but the loss of a family member this last summer. So we want our community back. And I was really hoping that after the winter break and got her all vaccinated, she could come back. But lo and behold, look at this case rate. Oh my Lord. I mean, we can't come back. Already, I'm experiencing a lack of equity as a high-risk disabled family. We can't participate in our public school, and our public school is supposed to be for everyone. So I want you to continue to consider those of us that are vulnerable and continue to follow the public health guidelines. If my community was willing to follow the public health guidelines, it would be safe for my child to come back to in-person school. If they would realize that wearing a mask does not harm your health, and there is no evidence-based medicine or study that supports that, it is harmful. Masks do not harm children. If more folks would get vaccinated, that'd be great. But hey, can't make you do that. But let's just be respectful of those of us who are at higher risk and wear masks to take care of each other. Things I want to say real quick. 17 children in Washington have died. 823 children have died of COVID in this country. 44 people in our community of Arlington have died of COVID. That was as of end of September. 43 people died in the Oso landslide. This is serious, you guys. This is very serious, and we need our community to work together. But please don't work in an unequitable manner and leave folks like me and my family behind in the dust. There's nothing fair about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you for coming and sharing your perspective. Madam Clerk, who's our next speaker?
Nicole Henderson. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Nicole. We have your information, so you can go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to the board members, the district, and the teachers and staff that see our kids every day. And I want to thank, I know that some teachers joined these board meetings, so I wanted to thank them directly for taking care of my kids' education and ensuring that they are learning so that I don't have to do it because I don't want to, because I'm not good at it. And because right now they are thriving. The previous 2 years of remote learning and hybrid learning was a complete failure for my kids. It's hard with two parents working full time. One is on a swing shift, so the other one is a single parent until the weekend, and I felt like I failed my kids. There were so many Fs. Now there are so many As for my freshman and my 8th grader, and that's because of all of you face-to-face learning in the classroom with their peers. They are putting in the work because you are there for them. And I know that it's hard. I know that it's a struggle. I know that you go home crying and you've got your own families to take care of as well. And I appreciate everything that you do. And all of that could change anytime. I know that I know of one other district around us that is sending out emails to prepare for remote learning because their staff are dropping like flies. COVID and all its variants are not going away anytime soon. Doctors across Snohomish County released a message on Saturday imploring residents to please vaccinate and continue wearing masks. Healthcare workers are done. We are done. So many of my coworkers cannot work because their kids have COVID. Not them, their kids. All of their kids are getting COVID. We need to practice safe COVID protocols, wearing your masks, get vaccinated if you can. If you can't, you know, whatever your decision is, but if you can, please do. I know that the school district doesn't have any control on masking or vaccination requirements. It's all up to the state. And again, I know it's hard for all of the teachers and the staff working every day. I really appreciate everything you do. Please continue enforcing masks and safe COVID practices. And whatever you decide to do about the board meetings, I support your decision either way. Because would people still be happy if only 2 board members showed up in person and the rest of them were remote? And have you been to a high school football game? About 11% of people are wearing masks. And that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. Do we have any other hands raised?
Yes, Joe Angelo, are you there, Joe?
Yes, I'm here.
Joe, we have your information from a previous meeting on file, so if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. First, I would like to comment on the outcry to take board meetings back to in-person. I think that the actions of people at nearby districts and the behavior of some people in Arlington show that there are at least some in the community who only want to be in person so that they can more effectively harass, threaten, and intimidate other parents and board members. And if that fails, so that they can create disruptions of the board meetings. With this in mind, I support the idea that was floated last meeting of having board meetings shift to hybrid, where those that want to attend in person can, while parents, staff, and board members who would prefer to stay remote can do that as well. Next, I want to address our climbing case counts and area hospitals overcrowding. The fact is that our numbers are now 4 times higher than our high from last year. We're over 2,000 per 100,000 for our 14-day rolling case count, largely due to unvaccinated people continuing to be willfully negligent with the health of themselves and our community. I'm aware that the governor and OSPI have failed to renew the WAC or administrative code to allow remote days to be counted towards the 180 days required. So I'm not going to ask that the district go back to remote. Instead, I ask that the board send a clear message to OSPI and the governor that we will protect our district staff and students with or without their help. I ask that the board shut down all classes until case counts fall back to a more reasonable range, then make up those lost days by extending the school year through summer break. This will give district staff and students a much needed break from the stress they are dealing with both in and out of school, and hopefully help motivate the community into doing what is necessary to bring our infection rates back down and take some pressure off of our already overburdened healthcare facilities and staff. I know you cannot discuss this tonight, but I ask that you put it on the agenda to discuss at the earliest possible opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe, for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. Madam Clerk, do we have any more hands raised?
Yes, there is someone there identified as B. Miller.
Yeah, hello.
Are you there?
I am. My name is Bob.
I'm sorry, could I have your first and last name? I've got your last name. Can I have your first name, please?
Bobby.
B-O-B-B-Y or I-E?
Just an I.
I. And Bobby, could I get your email address, please?
Yep, it's Bobby, B-O-B-B-I dot A-N-N dot Miller at gmail.com.
Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
We can hear you, so go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to come on and say that I've been attending the last couple school board meetings. I'm really concerned for our children in our community, especially after the last person that just talking about making the kids be out of school and extend through their summer break. That's just lunacy to me. But anyways, I'm very concerned for us going back to distant learning. My children, I have a middle schooler and a high schooler, and they struggled really, really bad through Zoom. Now that they're in person, they're doing much better. My daughter was told by one of her teachers, who had very limited time getting to know her in person, that she has ADD and ADHD and that I needed to get her to a doctor because she didn't think that she would be successful through middle school. My daughter now has all A's and B's in her classes now that she's in person. This is the best she's ever done. And so I really appreciate the kids being back in school. It's helping them both. During quarantine and distant learning, both of my kids went through issues with gaining weight because of the loss of motivation to do anything and loss of interaction with students at school and sporting. When I was still working at the hospital, during these times of Zoom meeting or distance learning, there was a drastic amount of children from ages 10 to 16 in our ER for suicidal ideation. And that has changed once they went back into school. It was getting less. I don't think people understand the bigger picture of what this does to our children's mental health. We need to be in school board in person for school board meetings for the interaction and being able to see our community's faces. I don't think it's fair that there's some people on the school board who are part of groups on Facebook, calling us conspiracy theorists or angry mobs of people. That's just because we have a different belief and feeling on this whole situation. I don't think that's right. I don't know how these people hold a spot on the board, to be honest with you. There's been comments about how people that don't wear masks or don't want to get vaccinated deserve to get COVID and die. That's crazy. We all need to learn how to love each other more and not have biased opinions by our personal beliefs when we're on the school board, and look at the overall picture and all of the students to consider, not just the small amount of people that have compromised immune systems. There's more than just that small percentage of people, and it's not fair to be taking this away from our children. So thank you for listening, and I really hope you consider all of these perspectives.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing your thoughts. Do we have any additional hands raised?
Yes. Mona Soltero, are you there, Mona?
I'm here.
Mona, we have your information from our last meeting, so you're free to go ahead and speak.
Hi, I just wanted to echo a couple things, and one is the gentleman that spoke, just two people before me. I always admire people that are passionate. However, I am strongly disturbed about some of the things that you said, and that people not getting vaccinated, that it would be irresponsible, when in fact, this is all still in it's still in a test phase. So I could rather say that I think it's irresponsible for you to do that. And my heart goes out to the person that is immunocompromised, truly. It really does. But to constantly live in a state of fear, and for you guys to say that, oh, well, if you need to get vaxxed and that's it. Well, you can still get it. You can still spread it. And with the CDC director coming out just 2 days ago and saying that nationwide, it's 3,500 kids that are in the hospitals with COVID. And it's not because of COVID, but with it. Okay, that is a CDC director. Okay, to go beyond that, Fauci just saying that, we think our numbers are skewed. So let's also take that into account. If we want to go even deeper, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw a flag out there. This makes no sense, the hypocrisy for our kids to be seeing other people, knowing that they can go out, they can have dinner at restaurants with their families and sit right next to people or right behind them. There's not a problem. But when they go into schools, they have to sit on a floor and they have to sit 6 feet away. This is wrong. And our kids can see that. And if you really have a problem with that, and if you are truly living in fear, you should keep your child. I can't believe I'm even saying that. And it hurts me to say that. But that doesn't affect everybody else. And the thing is, like the other speaker, she said that, COVID's going to be with us for a long time. Great. Here's what I'm just going to challenge and throw out there. We're going to continue to live with it. Our children have such a low infection rate. Just step up and do what's right. Okay. My question for that is, are you continuing to keep the kids masked and in this state of emergency because you are collecting money for it? Did you put a price on our children? That is plain and simple what I want to know. And I think you should really sit with that. And if it is, hey, you know what? Get that money and disperse it amongst the school and the teachers, because they sure as heck have deserved it. But don't keep our kids like this. If you have to tell them that you are, whatever. But don't keep our kids like that. And on that, I'm done.
Thank you for coming, Mona, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate all the community voices. Is there any additional hands raised, Madam Clerk?
Not at this time.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for listening and being respectful. The next thing on our agenda is our consent agenda. That includes our budget enrollment reports, our personnel report, payroll report for December, our warrants, the out-of-state staff travel for Howler Science to Houston, the cooperative agreement and memorandum of understanding with Grand Canyon University, the cooperative agreement with Whatcom County College, and if there's no objections, or if does anybody need to pull anything from our consent agenda, or can we get a motion to approve it?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call for a vote?
Yes. Director Ray?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Kingman?
Aye.
President Levesque?
Aye.
Director Knapp?
Aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our new business portion of the meeting. And this will be, the first thing will be our report of donations by our superintendent. Dr.
Amy
Sweet.
Nicken. Yes, thanks, Mary. In December, I had the honor of approving a generous donation from the Stillaguamish tribe for $4,500, and it's for presidents. It was, I think it says Arlington High School Booster Club, but then it's going to go to President's Elementary School Culture Committee, and it's focusing on all voices need to be heard. So I look forward to maybe in the future hearing a report from the students about that. So anyway, wonderful donation, and I'm always very grateful for the Stillaguamish tribe, who are very generous at all times. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you to the tribes for their generous donation. The next thing on our agenda is our academic and student well-being update and opening schools for 21-22. So we'll have Dr. Sweeting talk about this. Thank you.
And I'm going to start the presentation. So tonight with me, I'll have Krista Kramer, our district nurse, and Eric DeYoung, Executive Director of Human Resources, who will help with information that will be shared. So first, I will say the new year begins 2022. And so I say Happy New Year. And the new year does begin with some challenges and with hope. So the hope and of this all is that we have a wonderful team in Arlington. The staff that we have are dedicated and committed and selfless in all that they do. And they are amazing in every way. So that's with them, we will make it through this. Together we will. We did start with a 2-hour late, but the good news on that is we didn't have to close school completely. So to this date, there are no snow days yet, but I will tell you, we early on in the school year, we decided that if there is a snow day in the future, we will not resort to or move to remote learning. We will just have a snow day, and that will have to be made up during June. But just heads up to the community on that. We had challenge, as you've heard already, of increased county infection rates. And you'll see soon in a few moments that it's affecting our rates here with our students and our staff. We've had some challenges with some sports outbreaks, and an outbreak is considered anything where there's 3 or more in like a similar location. So a team or a classroom or a school. So those would be considered outbreaks. So with our wrestling and with our basketball, we're moved through that. But during the last month or so, we've had some challenges with that, but moving through that. And it actually has changed some of the health department. We've changed some of the protocols there, and it's requiring a lot of testing. This month is School Board Recognition Month. The governor has proclaimed that, and we are very grateful for those that choose to volunteer and to support this most important work, our children, and supporting their learning and their well-being. And good news, we are in an attempt to just keep moving forward and keep schools open, even in the midst of increased infection rates. We are adding additional health staffing. We've added some more, but we're going to add even more. And I'm going to share a little bit later about what that is. And just over the weekend, I think it was released on Friday, but came out Saturday and over the weekend, changes to the K-12 health department requirements, and we'll share, Krista will help share some of those. So some challenges and some hope. Last week, we had a meeting, superintendents and others we had a meeting with Dr. Spitters. And so I was trying to do a recap on that. And, his first comment when he first started the meeting is that the COVID transmission is out of control. That was his statement. I wrote that down. He said that for the last several weeks, we've been doubling in the cases, but that the good news is the severity is lower. It's not as severe. It's even more mild than the previous variants. Hospitalizations did triple, and he anticipates that they may continue to increase. Challenge, testing supplies are being impacted. A lot of this is that we have increased testing requirements or testing needs, and supplies aren't coming in as quickly as we need to use them. There is no proposal from our health officer in Snohomish County to dial back the in-person learning, to go to remote learning. And I'll address that in just a few moments in the next slide, but there won't be a directive he does not anticipate having that as a directive from his level. He believes, from Dr. Spitters, that the peak of this increase may be until mid or late February. He says that the incubation time is much faster. The average is 2.5 days. It was longer before the previous variants. And he said, stay home when you're sick. And so those were the words from Dr. Spitters. Next, I'm going to call upon Krista Kramer, our district nurse, to give you the status update. Krista, are you there?
I am here. Thank you. Good evening, board. As all of you, I'm sure, have seen our numbers today, and they came out a few hours ago, really. And so as of today, and Dr. Sweeney just kind of spoke to this, that our numbers are multiplying very quickly, and we are feeling this in the school setting as well. So we are at 2,023 per 100,000 in the 2-week rolling period for Snohomish County right now. Next slide, please. So our district counts, and this was as of Friday, and I just glanced at them today as building health room assistants and nurses have had kind of a day to add more. Currently, we are at 164 positives in our district right now and 285 close contacts, so totaling, 449 individuals. This is, we count students and staff there, that are currently impacted by the virus, either out for a positive or out as they're a close contact. So that's what we have currently right now. Next slide, please, Dr. Sweet. And a quick glance at our numbers in the district specific to the buildings. And this is also on our district site that Mr. Gary Sable updates for the new members every Friday. So community members and parents and staff can take a quick glance of what's going on in their building. And so, right now we have lots going on. We're feeling that, and we're going right along with what Snohomish County is seeing as well. Next slide, please, Dr. Sweeting. So last Friday afternoon, evening, Snohomish County or Department of Health put out new guidelines for us to follow. And so big change. I felt like this was a big change. And so what this is now saying that we can do some major updates here. So when someone tests positive, they now have the option of returning after 5 days, but there's a few little things that have to be done prior to the full 5-day return. So really they're returning on the 6th day. And so what that means is on the 5th day, a positive individual has to have no symptoms or be improving on their symptoms. Symptoms are getting better, and no fever as well. And they must have a test at day 5, that 5th day, no sooner. And it has to be a rapid antigen test because, as you are all aware, a PCR test would still test positive. So a rapid antigen test, which would be what they have to have. And it also has to test negative in order for them to be able to return on the 6th day. We cannot use the at-home tests. It has to be a lab confirmed test. And I know in this group, we've talked about that as well. If they test positive on that 5th day or 6th day, they then have to remain out for the full 10 days. Or if they continue to be ill, also, of course, they're asked to remain out for that full 10 day. So that's a big change. Quarantine changes as well. So instead of when someone is determined a close contact and they are not fully vaccinated, and we're asking either staff or students to quarantine, now they have the option to also return after full days. So pretty much everyone, regardless of the situation at this point, can fall into that 5 days out, returning on the 6th day, as long as they are well and have a negative test. That is what I'm seeing for changes right now. There's lots of questions. I have lots of questions still. I have questions out to the health department. I'm sure they were bombarded today with questions, so waiting to hear. And I'm always open to this group. If you have specific questions too that I don't know the answers to reach out to them and I'll get you those answers as well. Do you guys have any questions regarding any of these new changes?
Chris, it's Director Ray. I don't have any questions on the changes specifically. Back to the previous slide of the number of case counts.
Yeah.
Are there, or the counting guy coming out at me, would there be doubles in there potentially? So if a particular student or staff member, tested positive 2 different times, so they would be counted twice? Is that a possibility?
It's possible. So we're really careful if we duplicate one and that happens on error. There are people checking on this and they're contacting me and I'm removing them. Now, they could definitely test positive twice. We've had that happen. So say someone has tested positive a year ago and they're now testing positive a second time. That is counted then 2 separate times as 2 separate line lists. It is all a new illness. It's twice. But to your question on, do we have duplicates? There might be 1 or 2 in the thousands and thousands, but we're very careful about that. And I go in and remove them because I don't want any duplicates. I want our numbers to be very correct.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of both questions. You answered it exactly as I assumed it was on there. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Krista. And one thing that was a change that we talked about today was that the status of being fully vaccinated has changed. For most of us who have had the 2 doses and were considered fully vaccinated on Friday, then all of a sudden now today on Monday, we're not considered fully vaccinated unless you've had the booster shot or if you've had COVID within the last 90 days and you have that confirmed by a lab. So just some new changes on that, some new thoughts. So thank you, Krista, for that. So next, with all of this in mind, I've asked Eric DeYoung if he would just give us an update. He spoke at the last board meeting about our staffing and, how are we doing this now that the infections are increasing? There's more possibility that there will be more close contacts, potentially, because not everybody all of a sudden is not fully vaccinated. But Eric, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you, Chris. So since I talked last time about our subs and how many open positions we've had during the day, obviously Omicron has kind of hit us again with a new wave of staff being out, close contacts. We're hoping that those new guidelines that Chris had just shared will help us with that and be able to get staff back quicker, at least some of them. Some of them will still probably have to be out for the full 10 days, but hopefully some will be back after 5 or 6 days, I guess it is. So that should help us a little bit. Just sort of as a barometer, today we had 13 teachers that were unfilled. 13 teaching positions. So we had to make do, and different buildings are handling that in different ways. The secondary schools typically have teachers cover during their planning time. Elementary schools handle it a variety of ways. They could have a specialist cover a class. They could have, which would mean that students don't get specialists that day, like music or art or something like that. Principals are covering it at all levels on occasion. We have, in certain instances, classrooms, if there's no sub for a teacher, then those students would be split out, say, to the other first grade teachers for that day. That's another way that it's handled. So there's a variety of things that go on. But, at this point, we're able to manage it. It's not fun. It's not fun, we know, for teachers. It's not fun for administrators who are trying to scramble every day. We brought on, I mentioned it last time, but nearly 20 emergency substitutes since the beginning of November or so. We brought on 20 new subs. We've also had some student teachers that are now eligible to sub for us. So our sub pool has definitely increased, but so has our number of staff right now who are out with COVID or as a close contact. So those two numbers have sort of risen in harmony, I guess, if you will. And so we still have numerous unfilled positions each day. Today we had 13. Tomorrow, at this moment in time, we have 9 open positions. So hopefully some of those will get filled, but we also have the late call-ins, and those are challenging for us, the morning of. Typically the ones that are in advance get covered. It's the ones the last minute ones that are harder for us to fill. We're all drawing from the same sub pool, typically. Lakewood, Arlington, Stanwood, Lake Stevens, Marysville, there's a lot of subs that do all those different districts. So it is a challenge. We also have classified employees who are that we don't have subs for on occasion. Those are also challenging. It's not always the emergency that a teacher is, just because typically they're a support to a teacher or a program, as opposed to being the person that we're required to have for supervision and legally. So but it does create other challenges for us in terms of supervision, lunchtime, supporting students one-on-one. So there's a whole host of needs, and we're scrambling, to find those subs as well. So no real easy answers here, except to hopefully that this wave will, as we've seen in other places, hopefully it's obviously risen quickly. Hopefully it'll fall just as quickly, so that we can get back to more of a normal absence rate for our staff. So there you go. I don't know if there's questions or anything else I can answer.
Okay, thank you, Eric. All right, so the next slide is next steps and responses. Well, we're going to just keep moving forward. We're going to keep going because we have a great staff, and even though we're in the midst of this pandemic and those things, we are going to be okay because we're going to do this together. And the next slide talks about, we did develop a continuity of operations plan, which is really called the COOP plan, but it's a plan that we developed early on this year that is our plan of keeping schools open as much as we possibly can, because we believe that it's really important to have in-person instruction. At the same time, we're monitoring the impacts of the increased rates of infection and the quarantine rates and the impact to our staffing. So we're monitoring that and looking for ways to mitigate those impacts so that we can have in-person instruction. The COOP plan actually outlines how we would deliver the basic education program if there were disruptions to the way that we can deliver it, such as if let's say there was infections to the point that we didn't have enough staffing in a school or a classroom. So it outlines in that plan what happens for individuals. And we've been doing this all along. If an individual has becomes positive or they become a close contact, we have steps that we follow, and the instruction that they would receive would be outlined with their teacher and work with their teacher and their school in getting that instruction. We have within this plan, it talks about if we have classrooms, and right now we do have several classrooms that are out, and according to our COOP plan, those classrooms, if they can, will move to remote learning. If the whole class is out and the teacher is out, and if we can, and in one situation, we had a substitute come in, and there were some students that were still in school, but the majority of the class was out. So we worked through that. We have a plan. The plan is a foundational plan. It doesn't have all the details. So when a situation happens, we have to sit down and problem solve and work through the details. But it does, in the plan, it tells us there's areas that we need to address. And when it comes to a situation, if infection and quarantine rates are so high that we can't maintain a whole school closure, the whole school would need to be closed. That would be rare, but we have outlined a plan that then the school would move to remote for a short period of time. But we are working hard for that not to happen, keeping the safety protocols in place and doing what we need to do that. But it's we're working hard, and I'll just right now I was going to do this at the end of the meeting, but I'm doing it right now. I am doing a shout out to our teachers and also our nursing staff. In fact, our whole staff. I mean, it's incredibly amazing what they are doing every day to take care of our students, and I am very grateful. In this plan, it outlines, so the school, if for some reason we needed to close a school for a short period of time, or a district, but I can't, in my mind right now, that we have this outlined, but it's like we're working very hard to not go there. Even in the midst of when infection rates have gone up to 2,000, we are working very hard to keep kids safe, to follow the protocols the best we can. And, but we also lean on the health department. And when it comes to closing a school and even the classrooms, we consult with our health department and they guide us through that. And we would listen to their guidance, but when it comes to staffing needs, that would be something that we have to make a decision if there was not enough staffing for a period of time. The next slide just shows you that the COOP plan addresses what in those situations, like for an individual student, for a classroom, for a school, for a district, what do the classroom teachers and support staff do in that situation? What does our technology do? Because if for some reason a whole class goes out and needs to do remote learning, where do they get the tools that they need to do that? It addresses food services so that children still somehow get their lunches or their food. And some of this is not easy to solve, but this is part of that plan. And then the contact tracing and communications must continue. Custodial services, what do they do if a school is closed or classroom is closed? And then what is the transition? If that were to happen, then what's the transition look like when you come back to in-person instruction? With that, there has been some districts over the last year have adopted a program called Test to Stay. And we did not adopt this and we haven't at this point, but we are initiating steps We started today to create a foundation to where this could happen. It's going to take some additional staffing. We would have to hire some full-time individuals that could help us with increased testing needs. What a test to stay program is that when an individual is identified as a close contact, they can be tested if they have no symptoms. They don't have any of those things. They from all that we can see, they're healthy, but they have become a close contact. They can they can be tested, and then they can stay. They can stay at school and learn, so that they don't even have to wait the 5 days. What we're trying to discern is how often then do they need to be tested? Is that every day? For how long? So we are waiting for some information back from the health department. This approach, this test to stay program, requires a memo of understanding between ourselves and the health department. So that would need to be board approved. And so, but we're working on, we can bring that to the board at the next regular board meeting or sooner if there was another opportunity. But I need to hear from the health department what the next steps need to be. We have set in motion, even if we didn't do this test to stay program, we're going to add this additional staffing, because with the increase of the change in quarantine hours or days to 5, we have a lot of testing to do. A lot. And so even if we didn't do test to stay, we're going to have these, we're going to increase our health assistant positions that were 4 hours to 7.5 at every building. We have 2 buildings that have not yet hired those individuals. So we're going to work hard. Maybe the 7.5 hours will be more enticing to someone instead of 4 hours. I don't know, but we're going to work hard to make that happen. And that'll provide additional opportunity or staffing available for buildings to have testing to take place at the building level. In addition to that, we're going to add 2 7.5-hour positions to support like a district centered testing at the district office. So there would be available opportunity there if, to give some, we first would want them to go to the building, but then there'd also be availability at the district office. So we're setting this in motion and we're initiating the steps. In other words, how could we do test to stay? How can we make that happen? But today, we're starting the 5-day quarantine because that's the new guidance. And once we get this moving forward, then it would be different. That I will say right up front that one of the concerns, besides just making sure we have the staffing to do this, is we need the tests to do this. And so right now we're waiting for some orders that we placed last week and they have not arrived. And our supply that we have right now, I don't know, maybe it's a week's worth of supply right now with just the testing we have to do right now. So there's some hurdles to go over, to get to this place, but we're willing to take the step forward and to pursue this. The Lakewood is doing this. I think Stanwood is doing this. I'm not sure if anyone else, but we're seeking information and laying the foundation. So with that, I'm ready for discussion and questions. And I'm going to stop sharing so we don't have to look at this clock that says time for sharing.
Hey, Dr. Sweetie.
Yes.
Hi, can you please state again who is being tested and how frequently?
Okay, and I might have my lifeline, Chris, to help me here, but right now, currently, we are testing, right now, the new quarantine is students can come back and staff after 5 days. Chris, do you want to take this for me? So I don't mess it up.
So right now we are testing in the buildings. If there are any symptomatic students or staff on campus, we will test them immediately before they leave, if they would like, with parent permission, if that's what they're asking to do. And then we also right now are offering 2 days a week at the district office testing. And this was very manageable in the last, we've been doing this about 2 to 3 months. Very manageable, small amount of students that couldn't find outside tests. If they were determined close contacts, we would test them. Now with these new requirements of the possibility to return sooner, we are now getting those groups that can now test at day 5, no sooner than day 5 after their last date of exposure, to return on the 6th day. Today, we had a huge volume of our student population. I felt like it was a huge volume. I didn't count. I know we had upwards of 50 people come through there to test this morning, and that was truly without really even implementing the 5-day rule, really. So that's currently what we're working towards. That's why we want, so important, I feel, to get an everyday testing area with more staff to test, so we can, I don't know if any of you have tried to get a test out in the community. It's extremely difficult. We're trying to make it easier on our families of our students to be able to get that test and have the kids back in school much faster.
And we're also testing staff who are unvaccinated who have exemptions. And part of our accommodations for those staff are that they get a test, a COVID test every other week. And we've been performing those tests as well. So.
And Mr. Kingman, I forgot as well, we are testing athletes as well per the guidelines we have to follow at the secondary level. And so Arlington High School is testing their athletes 3 times a week, as well as Post and Howler, and that's happening for the high-risk sports.
So it is hundreds of tests what we're doing, hundreds.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Other thoughts? Other questions?
Dr. Sweeting and all your staff, and Krista too, thanks for looking more into this Test to Stay program. I think that'll be very beneficial for our students and staff and community as a whole. It's going to be great to implement that. Is there? It seems like you're moving forward, which is great. I totally support that. It sounds like we definitely need a MOU to approve, and hopefully we can get that done soon. Is there any other support you need from the board to move forward at this time, or are you comfortable just keeping the ball rolling until we get that MOU? And I would encourage us to have a special meeting to approve that, should you get that anytime before our next board meeting.
Yeah, if I'm able to have it put together, because I'm not sure if what the health department needs to do with it prior to us. If I'm able to put it on as a single approval item on one of the study session days next week, I will. I'm just not sure of the turnaround, but for sure, I can't see why I wouldn't be able to put it on the 24th for sure. But if I can get it on next week, I will. I would, if you can, encourage people to apply for those positions, because we are going to need the manpower, to do that. And so that'll be incredibly important. And I was telling someone today, this is like, when the tide's coming, it's been coming in and now it's going to come out. There's this turbulence, of different types of currents of the ocean. That's kind of where we're at. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of, we've got high infection, but we get lessening of the quarantine. We'll be okay, but we will be okay. And we're going to work through this, but we do need to encourage, and we will be sending out communication tomorrow about the new quarantine, the 5 days, and we're going to let people know that we're going to seek something that'll help even lessen that time, and we're just going to communicate that it's important for them to follow the protocol, stay home when they're sick. And at this time, there are certain protocols like the facial coverings and the physical distancing that are what we have to manage this. So we'll make it through this, and we will move forward. So if I can, I'll bring that MOU next week. I'll know we have to publish for the study session on Thursday. So it may be a quick turnaround, but we'll see what we can do on that MOU and move forward. That's all I have.
I think that's a great program.
And they recently changed it because the original what could happen is if you were close contact only in school, you could do the test to stay, and it only was to stay in school. It didn't involve any of the sports or anything else. That's changed over the weekend. It's changed. So that's new guidance. So that's all I have, Mary. Dr.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Krissa, for the update. And I really do appreciate everybody working so hard. And I know how important it is to keep kids in school. So the test to stay, I'm really looking forward to reading about that, and hopefully that'll help keep us going. I think one question that I had was, because we are dedicated to following public health guidance. And so I'm wondering if you could maybe explain a little bit of what would happen if we strayed from that guidance.
Well, it's really our approach to when we went into remote learning and we were drawing together the plans for reopening schools. We said we were going to align ourselves as best we could with the public health, what the requirements were. Several reasons. First of all, we are educators, not health experts. So I do not have my doctorate in the medical field, even though the students, when I go to Student Voices, they think I do, but my doctorate is in education. So I need to lean on them. I need to lean on their expertise. And I took, and we all, the board and myself, took a note that we would follow the laws of the state of Washington and the Constitution of the United States to the best of our ability. So I do that. And so I think that we follow those. We have our eyes wide open. So if there's something we wonder about, we ask questions and we give feedback when it doesn't seem quite right. But ultimately, the health department makes those decisions and we follow that. There are implications. This is secondary to what I just said, but secondary to that would be that, we have a responsibility as a system. And we have some liability and there's insurance involved if we're not following the health department guidelines. We have a responsibility to our staff, to our students, to keep this environment safe. And so it's very comprehensive, but very important. But if there's some things that we don't understand, or maybe we don't even agree with, we have conversation. And I will say, since the pandemic started, that's now almost 2 years and a couple months, been meeting on a regular basis with the health department staff. And most of that time it's been on a weekly basis where we can ask questions and learn from them the best we can. So hope that helps a little bit. Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
I wonder if Maddie and Kyle want to comment about how school's going for them in person.
Yeah, in person school's been pretty good. I know coming back to 2-hour late start was kind of nice little week back into the normal scheduled days, and I'm working at the vet. That's why I was late again today, but everything's good and we're in person, and it just makes me happy that we're in person. It truly does. And yeah, I'm going to be turning 18 this Sunday, so that will be a big milestone. And yeah, thank you. It honestly is. It's just good to be back in school.
Yeah, for me too, I would say the same thing. It's nice to be back. Ironically, my birthday was on the 3rd. So it was not great to come back. Then I was hoping for maybe a snow day or something, but the 2-hour late start was pretty nice. So I'll take it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Does anybody have any further follow-up questions about our academic and student well-being update? Okay, we can move on to the next topic of our meeting, and that is our financial highlights of our current budget. This is also fun. So we're going to hear from Gina Zutenhorst, our Executive Director of Financial Services. Gina, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get the slideshow going. I'm sharing my screen and I believe you can see it, but I'm trying to make the slideshow go so that it but there we go. It was me, operator error. Okay, thank you for your patience with that. Good evening, everyone, members of the board and audiences that is listening as well. I'm Gina Zutenhorst. If you haven't met me before, Executive Director of Financial Services. And this is my time to share with you some financial highlights of our current budget. This particular presentation is a reoccurring board agenda item that mirrors when there is a budget report on the consent agenda. And certainly our budget and our financial progress and health are important matters. And so we want to just kind of keep them in our board members' eyes as we continue to see where we're at and where we're going and as things change along the way. So I will start with the financial health of the district. We have some really good things going for our school district as far as financial health. And I want to choose to talk about those first and re-highlight them. So we do have a very healthy fund balance that will help sustain our operations during these especially topsy-turvy times. And when I say operations, I just want to re-highlight again that the very primary goal is about student learning. That is the primary thing of our operations. Four-year educational programs and operations levy, we have that going for us. We are in our second year of that operational levy, programs and operations levy. We also have some federal funds that are providing some relief. So we have ESSER 3 money in the amount of $3.6 million for our district. We don't have all of those funds yet because we have to spend them and then claim them to be reimbursed to receive those funds. But we do have awareness that we have those monies, and we've talked about them, but I continue to bring that to the board to put it in front of the eyes of everyone. And we'll show a slide later that shows how we're planning on spending those. We also have, and this is a new, unexpected, unbudgeted revenue source. It was Department of Health Learn to Return grant funds. So we have $490,000 that we are going to be getting over the course of the year in that area. And that's really going to help us with, when you heard the presentation talking about the health room assistants and increasing the hours there, and just everything involved with all of that testing and the new staff positions that we're talking about hiring for that as well. So that is a federal grant that is providing that assistance there. We also have CARES Act emergency connectivity funds. So we will be buying a very large volume of additional technology equipment, Chromebooks mainly, and you have heard from our director of technology about some of those purchases, but that is a very large source of support that was not budgeted either. So, but we're thankful for this. Another and final thing to always be keeping in the forefront of our talk when we're talking about the financial health of the district is that also just that thankfulness that we have it is our capital levy. And that is primarily what's going on at the high school right now. They're with the classroom additions, and the capital levy is what made that possible. So that's the financial health. Our next slide, I will talk some more about some of the challenges that we are facing as we've gone into this fiscal year, coming off of the last one. So our initial budget estimates for 21 and 22 fiscal year had our ending fund balance coming down to the minimum reserve level by the end of fiscal year. Staffing levels that we maintained as far as our staff in our school buildings and all across the district, we maintained those at pre-COVID enrollment levels, and we actually hired additional staff to meet student needs and accelerate student learning. Our enrollment is recovering at a slower pace than we had hoped. When last year, we lost about 450 to 500 student FTE in our enrollment figures, as many districts across the state experienced. Coming into 21-22, we were budgeting to be pretty level with our enrollment. And in the back of our minds, we had hoped that we might recover maybe 200 to 250 of the student FTE that we lost. But and it's positive, we have recovered about 100 more students than we budgeted, but that's still a slower pace for bringing more students back compared to where we were pre-COVID levels. And then we do have a number of programs that are on track to spend more than is generated by their associated funding models, and that it would be special education and our child nutrition services areas. And these are areas where, we can't really affect that. Our special education, we need to provide those services, and our child and nutrition services is just a very different, unique delivery model this fiscal year, especially. And we have a lot of waivers from the federal government in allowing us to provide all of the meals to students without a charge. And we're continuing to experience a lot of costs associated with COVID-19. So those are the landscape of some of the great things and some of the challenges for our district. Fund balance trend, our beginning fund balance that we came into 21-22 school year with was 12.2 million. And where we're at for fund balance as of November, because we've closed out November, finalized all those numbers. So November is the month that is on your consent agenda. So that's what I'm reporting on here. Our fund balance is at 9.9 million. And you can see on this chart, if you can see my cursor is following this dark navy blue line, that's this fiscal year. This hot pink line here is 18-19. So you can see each month's kind of trend laid up against each other, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, and then this year. All of those years are laid up against each other, and you can see kind of the trend going up and down across the months. And so you can see that November, the trend is to be down, although this year we are further down than we normally would be, but we are still above our minimum fund balance restricted reserves amount. And I do expect that we will be following the lines of this still.
Hey, Gina, real quick, what's the $12 million line, the straight across one represent? You just highlighted that particular number, or is that just...
Oop. The what line?
Yeah, at least on it's harder to see, right, on a smaller screen, but you have a solid horizontal line at what appears to be 12 million. Like black, it goes all the way across. Is that just a line marker, or does that represent like a median or anything like that?
I don't think I have that slide presented here.
Okay.
I see the slide that Director Ray is talking about, and it looks like you're highlighting 12.2 for the beginning fund balance. It's one of the bullet points. It's one of the measurements.
Is that just what that is? Yeah. I think
that's just showing across where we're at, where we started.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. So next slide for fund balance. Moving away from fund balance, I wanted to talk a little bit again. Here is our federal ESSER 3 spending plan. We have 3.6 million, and as you can see, The green categories, there are 3 green categories, 67%, 15%, and 9%. And those are primarily, that is for school building instructional staff, school building paraeducator FTE staff, and then counseling staff FTE, and some social emotional supports that have been put in place in the school. So the green, the biggest part of the use of that funding is going towards those pursuits. Our 3% here, nursing FTE staff, 2% will be for summer school next summer, and then 4% is being put towards technology equipment and FTE staff affiliated with that. So board has seen this slide before, but I just want to make sure that we're always making that visible for everybody. And this is also on our district website. Here is the OSPI financial indicators tool. And this chart has been updated to reflect the actual for 2021. So the fiscal year that we have just closed out. I did finalize those numbers and update this tool for that so that you can see what our score was ending the 2021 fiscal year. And this is a tool that OSPI has created. And we have extrapolated that to project into 21-22 and to see kind of where we would score if certain things happened. And the score, all these indicators together combined, is they're weighted, and then they come up with that score. So you can see that, and the previous year's history you can see as well to see where we were at with our score. And 1.75 is the cut score. So if we were to fall below 1.75, that would be considered to be put on financial watch by OSPI. So we're still in pretty good shape. We do have, hold on just a moment, I need to mute for just a second. My apologies. Okay, and so then our projected score right now would be to be at 2.45, and I do expect that that score is going to improve with higher revenues, and if fund balance is not as depleted as the initial budget would project by the end of the year. And then always we're taking a look at our adjusted working forecast as well. This chart is the same as what we looked at last month, but I want to remember and highlight that it has been updated since we looked at it for budget approval at that time when we approved our budget. And what I updated on here was our fund balance came in at 12.2, which was a little bit higher than we thought we would be able to start with. And I have increased our revenues some to reflect the fact that our enrollment is up compared to budget. Total budgeted FTE was 5,265, but where we're at for actual as of November is about 5,345. So I did make a minor adjustment in the revenues for that, although I won't know exactly what that's going to be until we get our January apportionment statement. And then I'll be able to update this in a more meaningful fashion. And then I also updated the revenues for the additional Learn to Return funds that we received or will be receiving. I put that into the estimate for how that will help us. And our fund balance is still projected to be pretty close to the minimum by the end of 21-22. And I reduced what was a picture of future year potential reductions. I made those, the red figures on the right, the 4,300,000, a little bit less because we have a better picture for 21-22. So those are going to continue to shift. But again, we always want to take a peek at what was the picture. And until we have some real stronger factors that I can update this to make it more meaningful for you, which will happen soon. Overall, the outlook of the current budget, we have the advent of new revenues that are helping our bottom line for future years. We have potential need for formal budget extension in the spring, and that's due to overall budget spending authority may need to be increased because we have some significant unbudgeted revenues that we're going to have spending on the other side of. So it's possible that we're going to need to do a budget extension, and I would be bringing that to you later in the spring. The district is carefully watching our cost trends and our revenues to measure the degree of potential current year need for budget extension or future year reductions, and we're pending costs and enrollment and availability of future years funding. So that is my briefing for you today, and I look forward to your thoughts or questions as we move forward.
Thank you, Gina. Does any board members or student advisors have any questions about what we've heard tonight?
Gina, I just had a quick question. I'm wondering, we're in a bit of a tunnel, or I'm in a tunnel, at least in understanding where our district is compared to maybe other districts of similar size. I'm guessing you connect with other folks of a similar size district, and I'm wondering where we rank with them in terms of fund balance. Are we sitting well? Are we at the bottom, the top? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I haven't done a real detailed analysis of that, but in talking with our others and also in looking at our comparative for how we're ranked with that OSPI tool, we're doing, I would say, pretty healthy, not super high, but we're healthy. And our minimum fund balance policy is part of what kind of helps that, makes that happen. I think that we're not too far off from others. Yeah.
Thank you, Gina.
Any additional questions or comments? All right,
I'll be back next month.
It's very informative. We appreciate you so much. The next item on our agenda is our school and district improvement plans. And so that will be presented by Carrie Henderson Burke, and she is the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning.
Good evening, President Levesque and board. Excited to bring forth for your consideration and hopeful approval the district improvement plans and the school improvement plans that hopefully you've had a chance to peruse before this evening's board meeting. There's quite a bit to read here. But before we jump into any questions you might have, I just want to remind you that each department in the district office submits a district improvement plan with goals. Each of those plans supports the 4 strategic plan goals in one way or another. They're meant to be responsive to the individual purpose of that department, but also the spirit of the times that we are living in. So in addition to district improvement plans, you've got the school improvement plans there, also intended to be not individual plans that begin and end at the end of the year, but they may reach across several years because they're lofty goals, or WIGs, as UDL likes to say, wildly important goals. And one last reminder before we turn it open to questions or discussion, but that school improvement plans this year have that kind of double component. There's the universal SIP goal around a district direction that's probably going to be in our wheelhouse for 7 to 10 years. And along with that universal district-wide goal, those individual goals that allow schools to be responsive to their contexts and the specific needs of their kids, staff, and families. So, do you have any questions about our DIPs and SIPs?
I will be honest, Carrie, that I know that's full of a lot of excellent content. Being a teacher myself, it's all I can do to get home before the sun goes away.
Yes.
But I will make sure I acquire one of those and look through that. So, yeah.
It's not light reading, that's for sure. And you've already had a pretty significant cognitive load attached to this evening's meeting. So totally get it.
Yep.
And there will be opportunity next month or in March, I believe it is, for the administrators from the schools to come and meet with the board again to give a mid-year review of their progress. Early in the year, the board met with the administrators and they shared progress from last year and then the goals for this year. So there'll be opportunity for more discussion about these goals and the progress towards them.
Any other further comments or questions about the school and district improvement plans? For Carrie Henderson Burke, we're hoping that we can hear your clock right on the hour.
But
I don't think
ways away. It could happen during board policy readings. We'll see.
We'll see. Any other comments? This is an action item, and the recommended action is that the school board approves the school and district improvement plans. Do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion that we approve the school, the school improvement plan.
You can second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have the school board approve the school and district improvement plans. Madam Clerk, will you please call for a roll call vote?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of that item on our agenda. The next item on our agenda is board meetings, potential action, and that will be presented by Superintendent Sweeting.
Thank you, President Levesque. Tonight's a continuation of our discussion as a board about the timing for adding the in-person component. It is required for school boards to have meetings on Zoom. That's what the Open Public Meetings Act requires right at this moment. And adding an in-person component is optional at the board's desire. So I stand ready as your superintendent to support in-person board meetings in the safest manner possible. That means that we have, when that timing is set, we will have those at the BPAC to allow enough distancing and for the people that attend the meeting and for the board. We will continue Zoom. So there it would be like, I think some of our parents said tonight that a hybrid. So it would be both Zoom and in person. So I just stand ready to support that. It is important that, you know, when we do have in-board meetings, that we follow the safety protocols, and one in particular that has been brought out as very important is that all people that attend must wear their masks. And if they do not wear a mask, then the board president or the board would remind individuals that they must wear a mask, and there's a sequence of reminders. And then if it gets to the point where there is disruption about that, or they're not wearing a mask, then we would have to stop the meeting and possibly reschedule it for another opportunity. So, but we're set to go whenever the board is ready to have those in-person meetings to start. And there'll be some logistics that we have to work out, because we're not quite sure how we'll have people on Zoom on a screen, but also have a screen for the presentation. So there'll be a few things to work out, but we'll get there. So it's open up to the board's discussion.
Dr. Sweeting?
Yes.
How much time do you and the district need to set up the BPAC for in-person meetings? So let's say we decided tonight to return as soon as possible. How much time do you need to make that happen?
Well, if we don't have a board meeting tomorrow, so okay, it'd be hard to turn around like, okay, tomorrow I'll have a board meeting in person, but we've been thinking about it and planning for it. I would say that our next board meeting is a study session. So that's possible, but the challenge with that is that there's no public comments at a study session. So like next Tuesday and Wednesday are a study session. And so if the board so choose to have those in person, we would make that happen. A portion of that meeting is designed already on Zoom, but even if we were in person, we could do that on Zoom. We have a guest speaker that's going to present or be part of our discussion for the first hour on Tuesday, and she's only available for the Zoom on Zoom. But the 24th, the regular board meeting, we would make it happen, whatever the date. My preference, I guess, would be the first regular board meeting. But if the board so choose to do it next week for study sessions, I would work hard to make that happen as well. Tomorrow would be challenging to do, but we don't have a board meeting tomorrow. So.
Thank you.
If everybody doesn't mind, I'd like to say a few thoughts because I do want to go back in person. And it just depends, because we all are well practiced at masking and social distancing, and we all know what to do. My concern is with the safety, and I know we talked about having, we would have some security there as well. And so I think that, I thought that Chris mentioned that.
Yes.
Just because of the threat that Mary talked about last meeting. And I feel like, and I don't feel like that, all community members are unsafe, but we have had a threat. So my concern is, we're talking about just the masks, but what about the other side of that too? And what does that look like? And that's kind of what I'm not hearing, is that side of it. If there is something like that happens, just like with our kids, we have the SRO to protect them too. So it's kind of the same for us, I guess. And I feel like I'm not saying that correctly. I'm not, I guess I don't want to say I'm not afraid. I just want to make sure that everything is in place because I do care about us and our community and the members who are going to be there, and our board members and the community members. I want to know that we will have the plan in place to keep everybody healthy and safe.
And Director Knapp, we would ask to have the SRO there. If the SRO was unavailable, then we would seek, at least for the first couple of meetings, have some other security. We have other people in the district that take care of those kinds of things, not in an SRO capacity, but others that we would ask to be there. So that's another thing. I don't know their availability for next Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's true. I'm not quite sure if they're available, but I would seek to make sure that they were available if possible. But I hear what you're saying. I would want to make sure that the board felt safe and comfortable and that the people that are attending would feel the same. And so we've already spoken to the SRO. Since the date has gone on, it's not been confirmed. I haven't been able to confirm that date with our SRO or confirm that date with anybody else yet, because I haven't had that conversation, that date confirmed yet.
Okay, so we would need to confirm the date and then we could have it in
right.
the plan. Okay.
Then I can get that in motion. But we've been to the my assistants and we've gone to the BPAC to try to look out the layout. How do we set it up logistically? We've spoken to the staff at the BPAC. I have spoken to the cabinet about we would have the need to have some greeters in the entryway because we would all be inside the meeting. So I've spoken with them. It's just finalizing those plans for this is the date and this is when we need to be ready. Next week might be a bit, it probably is, I guess, easier to start it on the 24th if we were ready to do it that, this month. But we would do whatever the board decides to do. We would do that. We would make it work somehow.
Thanks. Thanks for those two comments. Director Ray, we didn't get to have you weigh in on this when we discussed it last. I think we should start with you so we make sure your voice is heard.
Yeah, I'll just move that we return to in-person school board meetings on January 24th, 2022. That's how I feel about that.
It's been moved from Director Ray to return to in-person school board meetings on January 24th, 2022. Is there a second?
I second that.
That sounds just like Director Kingman seconded that. This is the time we get to discuss this motion that's on the floor and then take a vote on it. Do any board members have any comments on this motion? I'm going to say a couple things. I don't think that this is the right time to be moving forward with in-person meetings, given that our case rates continue to skyrocket. I feel like we should wait until the case rates start to come back down to where they were a month ago or lower. I don't feel like this is following our Snohomish Health District guidance from this last Friday on January 7th, where he said, avoid unnecessary travel and gatherings. This is especially true if you or your close contacts are older or have underlying health conditions that increase the risk of hospitalization. If meetings and events can be postponed or moved to a virtual environment, please do so. If you have to go, keep gatherings well ventilated, spaced out, short, and fully masked. So I feel like our best and safest, most abundantly cautious approach is to wait until our case rates go back down a little bit more, not straight up.
Well, if you would allow, I have a few words.
Please.
Yeah, so well, I appreciate your thoughts and comments. Certainly, these are necessary meetings. We're going to be well ventilated in the BPAC with lots of space in between all of us. Dare I say, it might be a little odd being up on stage as the meeting progresses there. So, and again, as everybody knows and everybody's well aware, you certainly don't have to show up in person should you not choose to. But I think it is proven to be a safe enough environment that we can meet in-person board meetings with what I can only imagine are less people attending than any of the events that we've held in the BPAC so far this year, sporting events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're wearing our masks, we're washing our hands, we're being respectful, and it is just time to be back in person, and really the hybrid schedule, right? That's what we're talking about, this hybrid board meeting schedule. And yeah, let's do this.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
It's a good time to raise a question. Director Knapp, go for it.
Thank you. I'm just thinking about logistics, if some of us are there in person and some are not. And it says in the paperwork that we're looking at that the board president will remind folks to put their mask on. But if the board president chooses to be on Zoom, then does that fall to the vice president who's in person? Or I'm just wondering, or is it any board member who's there? I'm just thinking about logistics and responsibilities and things like that to keep us all healthy and safe.
I think on my part, it would be, I realize that there's an opportunity for the board to be on Zoom, but I think that it would be not the norm. I think that we would all strive to be in person as much as possible. There are times when some people have to be out of town, and this gives opportunity for them to be at the meeting, even though they're out of town. But I would think that it would be important for us to be in person as much as we possibly can, because that's the point. And that's and a great example. That would be complicated because, if you're on Zoom, you cannot see what's going really on in the room at all. So that would be interesting, but my encouragement would be that we make a commitment to be in person as much as we possibly can. That would be the given manner in which we would hold our board meetings. When the board chooses to do the in-person meetings, that's our commitment, is to be in person. Unless there are situations where you might not be able to, but that would be the norm.
That's a good question, Director Knapp, and a good explanation. Thank you, Dr. Sweeting. Director Kingman, would you like to comment or ask any more questions about this motion that's on the floor?
I just think we owe it to the public to return to in-person meetings as soon as possible. And the 24th sounds good to me. So that's my vote.
And Director Kelly, do you have any comments or questions?
Not too much. I think we've talked to this, address this. And I think it is notable that the case count has gotten so high. But I think the up will just as quickly come down. So that's where my hope is. I think that there's some promise in the future, the very near future, that this will kind of saturate our communities, and then we will deal with a more reasonable virus if that's possible. So anyway, that just gives me it's a perspective. So I'm in a school every day, and today we had probably 8 or 9 people that were of a administrative teaching level that were not available. So that greatly impacts the learning and greatly impacts what loads the rest of us have to bear. And so I'm in that every day. So coming to a meeting in a room, even the size of EPAC, it's another introduction to more people in the community. So it's something that I do, I'm conscious of. So that's all I want to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I think we've heard from everyone on the board. Can we have a vote on that motion?
May I ask if you want to include a location in this motion?
I think
in order to form a policy?
It would be at the BPAC as has been presented.
And she's talking about, there's a policy 1400 that right now describes it as the in the boardroom here at the district office. We would, if that's a good point, we would just modify that policy to say, that it would be at the BPAC.
Director Ray, do you want to add that to your motion?
Oh, I'm happy to amend my motion as needed to amend board policy 1400 to show that the in-person meeting location will be the BPAC.
And also, just to make sure we're very clear, but this is adding to the Zoom component, right? That we are, adding the in-person component to the Zoom meeting.
Correct, as required by state law, and we've all sworn an oath to abide by state law.
And just one quick question, who would be exactly on the stage for the meeting? Because obviously when we're having a meeting, we have Dr. Sweeting, we have cabinet members. Are all those people on the stage, or are certain people remote in various locations and just the board is on stage? I just try to get a picture in my mind what that looks like.
Just the board, not the cabinet members. They'd be in the audience, yeah, I know it sounds weird. I wish there was a different venue than just on the stage. And, we may talk about it. It may end up being like too much space, but right now it's better logistic wise because we're going to have to figure out Zooming and all those things. So the board would be on the stage and then everyone else would be in the audience. So like in the stadium or whatever, the chairs. that are there. So
Can we take a vote on the motion to bring school board meetings back to in-person in addition to Zoom meetings at the BPAC on January 24th, 2022?
Yes, Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Nay.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Nay.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
So it sounds like the motion passes and the board will return in person to the BPAC, beginning with the next regular school board meeting that is scheduled for January 24th, 2022. Both Mikes are super happy about that. There will be some logistics and possibly an updating of a policy that will be coming next. Does anybody have anything else on this topic? Hearing no other questions or discussion on this topic, we will move forward to the next item of our school board agenda, and that is our first readings of board policy 1815, 1822, 1825, 2417, and 3116. And these will be presented by Dr. Sweeting. And then, wait, there's more to this. The first three will be given by Dr. Sweeting, and then the next two will be given by Carrie Henderson Burke. Thank you.
thank you, President Levesque. So the first one, these are first readings, so the board will have another opportunity on the 24th in person to discuss these. But 1825 is a brand new policy. It's all in red. So that means it has never, if it's all in red, that means it's not been adopted ever. There's not any language that has been adopted. This is titled Addressing School Director Violations. And so I'm not presenting this because we have a need for it per se right now, but it is actually presented to us by WASDA, the organization that has legal counsel, and they vet the language and present it to school districts across the state. It's categorized or classified as discretionary. That means it's up to our discretion as a board whether we would adopt it or not. But basically, this one talks about if there's a challenge, we've taken an oath and we're going to abide by certain behaviors and how we interact with each other for one purpose, and that's to serve our district and the students that live here and ensure that their learning is primary and our number one goal. But if there's a need where maybe a director is not following those guidance, then this outlines what would take place. And it would just take place in a manner that is, it's kind of progressive, so that the board president, if there was a board member that was challenged in some way, that the board chair or a conversation among whoever, that it would be done in private. And then it would go, it's progressive as you go. So you can read that there. And you can also, offer revision for this. You can actually say we don't want to adopt this, but think about policy as it relates not just to the now, but how it relates for the future, for future boards as well. So any questions about this? Okay. That one is 1825. The next one is 1822, and this one is adjusted. It's a current policy, and so you can see that the black lettering is current language. but the red is new language. And really the intent here is that we have new law, new legislation that requires that school board members have professional development in culturally responsive practices and equity. And so this is just updating this policy to reflect that, to reflect the new requirements for training. It also talks about the open government training, which I know our two new board members, Director Knapp and Director Kingman. They have already gone through that, and it's required that it be in the first 90 days that they become a board member that they receive that training. So they can check that off. They have done that. So thank you to both of them. So that's policy 1822. So first reading. Any questions about that? The last one from myself is a brand new one as well. It's 1815. It's called Ethical Conduct for School Directors. It's kind of in the same realm as the first policy I presented. It's like we commit ourselves as a team to follow the laws of the land, the laws of our state. And this talks about how we would approach those kinds of, what are those core principles by being objective and selfless and being good stewards. It's all the things that we know and that we've been practicing. And these are really anchored in this is in our strategic plan and our values that we already have. So this is putting it into policy, those values, as far as how would we interact and respond with each other. And this too is discretionary. So it's at the discretion of the board, but a recommended policy from WASDA for boards. Okay. If there are no questions, then I'm finished with that first reading for those three policies. I think Carrie, it's Carrie.
Next.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. We will take a look at policy 2418, which is about waiving high school credits. We have a 24 credit requirement, and it's a tight turnaround for our high school students. So this is a pretty minor update, adding another solid reason to consider waiving high school credits for kids. And it's just that addition about having been in or having been released from an institutional education facility that we would take that into account in considering waiving high school credit. Any questions or worries about that addition?
Carrie, can you give an example of what an institutional education facility is?
It could be a behavioral health center. It could be, like a Fairfax kind of school setting, therapeutic environment for some kids. Yeah. Still getting an education, but in a special environment. Yeah. Any other questions on that one, on 2418? You're making it easy on me tonight. The next policy that we'll look at is 3116, which is students in out of home or foster care. Again, primarily, this is a language update. You'll see a transition from out of home care to foster care, and you'll see kind of a bit more of a specific pinpointing of the person who interfaces with foster care agencies. And that is the change from point of contact to the district foster care liaison, who is, of course, Brian Long for us. There is also an added paragraph in red in each district school, including all of the schools in there, will have a building point of contact. This really just kind of codifies our existing practice. It's no change for us. Our school counselors act as that building liaison, and they interface with Brian Long and Shannon Sanchez in the teaching and learning office as need be. Any questions or comments about the terminology change or that paragraph addition?
I have a question that doesn't really relate to the policy, but do we have a percentage of students who are in foster care that this would affect them I'm seeing it in a positive way, but.
Yes, the effect of the change of the policy is, there is no actual change, because of what our practice is in place. And I would need to get a hold of Brian Long to give you the specifics. I know, oddly enough, last year our foster care kid count decreased. We lost some kids as COVID challenges and hybrid challenges faced us, but Brian Long could get you the most updated numbers. I wouldn't want to venture a guess.
Do we have any other questions for any one of those policies? Okay, since we have no more new business, the next thing on our agenda is our informational items. And we first have our superintendent's report. So Dr. Sweeting, will you please give us your report?
So I kind of gave a teaser already because I had put down that I wanted to give kudos to our maintenance team that really did during the break when it snowed so much. They plowed on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, the Tuesday and Thursday after the holiday, and then they came on the weekend and did it as well so that it was ready for that Monday late arrival. So just they are dedicated, and I'm very grateful to them. So kudos to them. I also wanted to say that the buildings this week are celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday and honoring him. And I have a quote from him that really aligns to our academic and student well-being plan, because we've got those connected, academic and well-being. He said, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. So it's intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education." So it is about the whole person, the whole human being. And so I'm very grateful that we have that focus. And so the schools this week are doing different activities. Some of them are having assemblies, some of them are having a Zoom link, where honoring of Martin Luther King Jr. will be there, and about civil rights movement and just the right for human beings to be treated and to have justice, and social justice across our district, but across the world and our nation. So that's it. Happy New Year again.
Thank you. And next item of business is our legislative update and discussion. So I know you're brand new at this, and it's only been a couple minutes really, but do you have anything you could share, Director Kelly?
I just would share that today was the first day of Olympia's session. It's a 60-day short session. A couple of us as directors are attending the conference at the end of the month to talk about our agenda and making sure our legislators who kind of our supporters will be hearing from us as a very large collective group. So I'm excited to attend that at the end of January. I think that's on January 30th on a Sunday. So I just need to, I probably need to reach out to Mark and connect with him a little bit and get some more nuts and bolts, but looking forward to presenting what I can and how it impacts us, and having us all have a voice as well as directors with our community, understanding our constituents and parents, that group of folks, and then being in the position we have to relay that to the greater body of WASDA, and then make sure those are heard. I'm not sure what impact we'll have this year. It's kind of hard to say, but a voice will be made, that's for sure. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. You sound like you've been doing this for years. So very nice. Thank you, Director Kelly. Next is our comments from board members. I'm just hoping that our student advisors would like to share some comments, and then we'll go around the room and finish up. Maddie, do you want to share some thoughts?
Is it the thoughts about the legislative?
Anything that's on your mind, anything at all, just your comments.
Okay, so I did want to say that the school parking lot was immaculate. The first day when I went back there, no, barely, if anything, little to none ice. It was so clear, which was so surprising to me because that's a huge parking lot. So I agree with Dr. Sweeting. They did an amazing job, and I just want to thank them because I don't know how else we would have been able to fit as many cars in there as possible. But yeah, I'm really excited to see about going in person, how that will change, and if it will change the number of people that join the board meetings. I'm hoping it will because it gives a more opportunity for people to hop on and as well as go in person. And I feel like it's a good, equitable decision that was made, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm just excited. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Maddie, and happy birthday this week. Kyle, do you have any thoughts about anything?
Yeah, just like Maddie said, the parking lot was spectacularly clean. I noticed that too. And then, like I said earlier, school has been going pretty well. It was a great transition back. And again, same thing that Maddie said. I'm glad to be able to meet you, those of you that I haven't met yet. And it's going to be nice to be able to see faces in person. So I'm just excited to see where this goes.
Thanks, Kyle. Director Kingman, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share at this time?
Well, I'm just looking forward to meeting all of you on the 24th. I can't wait. See you then.
And Director Ray.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting the other Mike and seeing some folks. I too saw snow removal on Sunday and was remarking on how much they had to remove and watched them for a while. They were doing a great job. I was up near Post and Eagle Creek and I was like, wow, yeah, it's a lot of snow, but good job. Again, thanks for all the support. Looking forward to everybody, seeing everybody back in person.
Thanks, Director Ray. Director Kelly, you've already shared your legislative update. Do you have a board comment?
Nothing really, just yes, it will be to live, eat, and breathe, being an extra board member, being amongst friends. And yeah, it'll be interesting, the participation. And it would be nice that, folks still attend, in person and just bring those other issues, curriculum, et cetera. There's so much to be involved in. And that will be very exciting to have some in-person dialogue. So we'll see. Looking forward.
It'll be a new adventure. Director Knapp, would you like to share some comments?
Yes. Happy birthday, Kyle. Happy birthday, Maddie. And I know that, we have had a tough time making some certain decisions, but I'm hoping that we can really find strength together. So I'm an endlessly hopeful person. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the end of the month.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a new adventure. Lots more decisions will be made, I'm sure, in the future. Thank you all for coming tonight and being part of this grand adventure that we're all on and supporting the students in our district. They are pretty amazing, and we have awesome district professionals that are sacrificing and working hard, and it is an amazing accomplishment, all the different things that have happened and continue to happen, and it's just really positive and encouraging this next generation that we are watching shine through some turbulent times. So it's pretty amazing what our students are doing, and it's going to be great to see you all next week. We have 2 study sessions next week. Part 1 is on January 18th at 6 p.m. and part 2 will be on January 19th at 6 p.m. on Zoom for both of those meetings. So I hope that you all have a good rest of your evening. If there's no other items to discuss, then we can adjourn this meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
And a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Kingman?
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
All right, we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody.